Maple Leafs GM Brad Treliving wants to change the team's DNA, but what does that actually mean? Hey everyone, welcome to Inside the Leafs. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Maple Leafs writers Terry Koshan and Lance Hornby. And guys, a few years ago, it was snot when Brad Treliving was referring to the qualities he wanted in players he wanted to add. This offseason, the buzzword is DNA. I guess that's several words, but Treliving said at his season-ending news conference that there's some DNA that needs to change in our team. Terry, when you heard that comment, how did you interpret what he was trying to say?
Well, you go right to the first thing that comes to mind is then, and for me, it means that a guy like Mitch Marner, there's not much of a chance of him coming back. Not that there would have been had Treliving made that comment about DNA, but if you're going to change the DNA of a team, then you have to finally change the core of it. And, the DNA, I also suppose, he talked about how champions know how to win and everything. Well, let's not get carried away here. The Leafs aren't going to be confused with champions anytime soon. I mean, go talk to the Carolina Hurricanes about how tough it is to get past the third round of the playoffs, never mind the second round, which the Leafs have only got it to twice here in the past little while. So the DNA to me means changing up some of the personnel, and that points to Mitch Marner. It doesn't sound like it's going to point to John Tavares, given the fact that there's mutual interest there, and both sides have expressed it. But yeah, that to me is that, it's another sign that Mitch Marner will no longer be a part of this going forward. And like Treliving said, Marner's got a say in it too. And so far as we know, Lance, like his say has been to say nothing about the future other than he hasn't thought about it. So that tells you all you need to know, I think.
Yeah. Well, the two things. I mean, there's certainly an appetite for change there. People are tired of this rolling it back with the same four. I think there has to be some sort of sacrificial lamb, for lack of a better word, and that looks like it's going to be Marner for now. But DNA could also wind up standing for do nothing at all. There's a lot of people who say, you know what, despite everything that's happened, they were one game away from, one goal away from being up 3-0 on Florida, one game away from advancing. And, there's a lot of players still under term. You have, potentially three of the four core four coming back. I think there's a fundamental change needed. And Marner, just because his contract is up, and, you look at his Game 7 numbers, his playoff numbers are down. That's going to be, I think, one of the big changes. Do you have to change the whole DNA, so to speak? Maybe not. Maybe you have, maybe you hold Austin Matthews good to his word that he comes back 100% healthy and has a productive playoff, although those are, it's a hard time waiting for that. And I thought William Nylander maybe took a step back in playoffs, and of course Tavares was really under control by the opposition. So as much as Brad Treliving made some good additions and improved the DNA, some work still has to be done, I think. So it's going to be beyond Marner. Is that going to be enough? Probably not. I think you take Marner's money, spend it on something else. Maybe that's how you fix the DNA on the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, and it's that too. Like the other part is, like Lance kind of alluded to, it's Marner because he's up.
Yeah.
How do you change the DNA? How do they go about changing the DNA in Matthews and Nylander? You still have, which I think is part of this too. And how these guys produce in the playoffs. And Matthews was hurt, we know that. But the fact of the matter is, he still won a hell of a lot of faceoffs and did a lot of other good things for the Leafs, and did get that shot off the odd time. Although he still just had the 3 goals in 11 playoff games, but I don't know how you change the thinking. I mean, I like what Berube has done in that way. Chris Tanev, a great addition in that regard, and just his attitude throughout the season, I thought was really a breath of fresh air in the room, but it wasn't enough. And like Lance says, will a change in Marner be enough? We'll have to see, but certainly I think that's, step one, if you will.
Well, and as you guys have pointed out with regards to Mitch Marner, I feel the same way, and I'm sure many do as well, that it does seem incredibly unlikely that he is going to be re-signing. Lance, we know yesterday at the availability, Brad Treliving, very complimentary of Marner, no surprise there. He got to see the player firsthand for the last couple of years. Could we actually get to a point, though, where the Leafs still table him an offer? I you look at the teams out there that have the cap space, a lot of them. We were just speaking about this before we started recording, that Terry mentioned that a lot of these teams are not playoff contenders. And if Mitch Marner is trying to win, which you think he would want to do, it's going to be a challenge maybe for some of these teams to afford him. So, is there potential that the Leafs may still look at Marner and, at least table him an offer at the very least?
Well, you know what? You have to. It's not the situation that Amico Rantanen was in, for example. And there's a guy who's going to go to the highest bidder. Mitch Marner's from Toronto. We should not put that past him. That as much as the difficulty has been here, he's Toronto raised. He's got his foundation here, and all those kind of things. Obviously, a good player is going to go where the money is. If I'm the Leafs, I make him an offer and say, take it or leave it. Here, make him a good offer, and maybe there's use that as a negotiation point. I know the bonuses aren't there really like they used to be in previous years, but yeah, I think you make you don't just cut ties, because you do have to. We didn't talk earlier about how you're going to replace those 100 points. So I think you make him an offer, and at least say you tried. So next next year when he's carrying the Stanley Cup around for the Utah Mammoth, you can say, well, you know what, we tried. We gave him money, didn't want to play here, but it's. I don't think that's going to make a difference, though. Brad Treliving did talk yesterday about let's take a step back. Things are still pretty raw with Marner, and a lot of the Maple Leafs, obviously, after losing in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, I think it's probably best to move on, and will be best, and will be almost a foregone conclusion if Marner does go to free agency and sees some of the money looking around there. And even though if some of those teams that only have the money aren't on the radar now, you never know. A good sell job, and they make him can give him something, whatever, in a tax-free state, or some role on the team, or something more of a of a carrot on a stick, then maybe that's enough to make him go as well.
Yeah, whether they table one or not, I don't know that he would spend much time looking at it. The other thing too is, say there's a world there that the Leafs sign Marner to 8 years, which you can't get anywhere else.
Yep.
What happens next year when we're having the same conversation? The Leafs go out in the second round again, or the first round, or the third, or they don't win the cup.
Yeah.
Then you're not. Then now, instead of what you're doing this year, you're contemplating whether he comes back next year. Looking at it, going, okay, there's still 6 or 7 more years of Marner here, and I don't know if that's a road the Leafs want to go down. To me, if Treliving wanted to re-sign him, I think he would have said as much yesterday. This whole idea about things still being emotional and all that, I don't buy it. I mean, yesterday was Thursday. The Leafs were eliminated 11 days earlier.
Yeah.
It was within 24 or 48 hours. A lot of dust has settled and all that. And I know that Treliving said these things, but geez, he flew across the country for his daughter's graduation. He had that family commitment. So there were a lot of other things going on. I don't really know that emotion is still a part of it.
I just think I'll quickly add, Terry, that Marner is just an emotional person. That's all. I mean, I would.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. But
this criticism he's hearing is cutting him to the bone.
Well, then why would he come back?
Yeah.
Right? Why would he come back when people are posting his address online and suggesting others go and do things that aren't right? I mean, it just. I don't know, like the hometown and all that. Yes, I would imagine you continue to live here in the summer. That won't affect his foundation and everything, and all the charity work that he does during the off season. Players across the league go back to their hometowns in the summer and continue in that way. We see Zach Hyman do it here with his golf tournament every year.
Yeah,
that's one example. But I just if you go through the rigmarole of the negotiation in the next few weeks, maybe you do, but. There also could be a day where Darren Ferris calls Brad Treliving and says, we're moving on, which I don't think would surprise anybody.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but for Mitch Marner, it might actually be in this case. But free agency still a little over a month away. We'll have plenty to talk about as we get closer to July 1. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Terry Koshan and Lance Hornby, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.